My girlfriend announced her engagement to another man while living in my house. My girlfriend came home last Tuesday and announced she was engaged, not to me, to someone else. She'd been seeing him for months, she said, and he'd proposed over the weekend. She told me this while standing in my kitchen, in my house, where she'd been living rent-free for 8 months. She actually showed me the ring, expected me to be happy for her. I looked at her and said, "Congratulations to you both." Then I called the police and had her escorted out that evening. Changed every lock, every security code, every password. When her fiancé showed up the next day demanding I let her back in to get her things, I had some information for him that made his face go very pale. Let me tell you exactly how my relationship imploded and how I made sure she understood that my house was never going to be her backup plan. I need to give you the full context of this relationship because the audacity of what she did doesn't make sense without understanding how we got here. My name is Jason. I'm 34 years old, I work in software development, and I make a good living, about $180K a year. 3 years ago, I bought a house in a nice suburb. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, big backyard. It's my dream house, and I saved for years to afford it. 2 years ago, I met my now ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, at a friend's barbecue. She was 29, worked as a marketing coordinator, and we hit it off immediately. She was charming, funny, attractive. We started dating seriously after about a month. For the first year, things were good. We spent most of our time at my place because it was bigger and nicer than her apartment. She'd stay over most nights, but kept her apartment as her official residence. About 8 months ago, Vanessa's apartment building was sold, and the new owners decided to do major renovations. All the tenants were given 60 days notice to vacate. Vanessa was stressed about finding a new place, especially because rent in our area had gone up significantly. One night over dinner, she brought it up. "I don't know what I'm going to do. Everything I've looked at is either terrible or way too expensive." "You're here most nights anyway," I said. "Why don't you just move in with me for a while until you figure things out?" Her face lit up. "Really? You'd be okay with that?" "Sure," I said. "It makes sense. You're here all the time. We'll split utilities and groceries." Notice I said split utilities and groceries, not rent. The house was mine. I paid the mortgage, but I figured she could contribute to the bills. Vanessa moved in the next month. She didn't bring a ton of stuff, some clothes, some personal items, a few pieces of furniture for the spare bedroom she used as an office. She put most of her furniture in storage, saying she'd need it when she eventually got her own place again. The phrase, "her own place again," should have told me this was always meant to be temporary in her mind. But I thought we were building towards something permanent. I thought this was the natural progression of our relationship. For the first few months, things were fine. Vanessa contributed to groceries and utilities like we'd agreed. We fell into a comfortable routine. I started thinking maybe we'd get engaged eventually, make this living situation official. But then I started noticing things. Vanessa was on her phone constantly. Not unusual for someone in marketing, but it seemed excessive. She'd get texts and immediately turn her phone face down. She'd take calls in other rooms. She was protective of her phone in a way she hadn't been before. She also started going out more. Girls' nights that happened 2 or 3 times a week, work events that ran late, happy hours with the team that lasted until 10 or 11 p.m. I'm not a jealous person by nature, and I trusted her, so I didn't make a big deal about it. I figured she was just socializing more, maybe making up for lost time after being cooped up during the pandemic. But there were other changes too. She stopped contributing to groceries as much. I noticed the money she was supposed to transfer for her share of utilities would be late or short. When I'd bring it up, she'd apologize and say she was having cash flow issues, that she'd been spending more on work clothes, or that her student loans had gone up, or some other excuse. I let it slide because I could afford it and I didn't want to be the guy nitpicking about money with his girlfriend. She also stopped doing much around the house. In the beginning, she'd cook dinner sometimes, done laundry, kept things tidy, but gradually she treated the place more like a hotel. I'd come home to find dishes in the sink, her stuff scattered around, no effort to maintain the space. Again, I didn't make a huge deal about it. I'd mention it occasionally and she'd apologize and do better for a few days, then slip back into old habits. The biggest red flag, looking back, was as she stopped talking about getting her own place. In the beginning, she'd mentioned looking at apartments or talk about when the market might cool down so she could afford to move out. But after a few months, those conversations stopped completely. She had settled in. My house had become her house, in her mind. Except she wasn't contributing like a partner. She was living like a guest who didn't have to pay rent. About 2 months ago, things got weirder. Vanessa started dressing differently, more effort into her appearance. New clothes, new perfume, more time spent on hair and makeup. She said it was for work, that she was trying to position herself for a promotion. She was also gone more often. Entire Saturdays where she'd be running errands or meeting friends for brunch and wouldn't come home until evening. One Saturday, I was bored and decided to go to the mall. I ran into Vanessa's coworker, a woman named Michelle who I'd met at a couple of company events. "Hey Michelle," I said. "How's it going?" "Good. How are you?" She seemed happy to see me. "How's Vanessa? I haven't seen her much lately." "She's good," I said. "Busy with work stuff, I think." Michelle looked confused. "Really? I thought things had been pretty slow lately. Most of us have been leaving early because there's not much going on." A little alarm bell went off in my head. Oh, maybe I'm mixing things up. She's been busy with something. I changed the subject and got out of there. But that conversation stuck with me. Vanessa wasn't working late. So where was she? I'm not proud of what I did next, but I had to know. The next time Vanessa said she was working late, I drove by her office building. Her car wasn't in the parking lot. I called her. "Hey, what time do you think you'll be home?" "Probably not until 9 or 10, she said. "We're slammed." "Okay, no worries. Want me to save you dinner?" "No, I'll grab something here. Love you. Bye." She hung up quickly. I sat in my car outside her empty office building and felt sick. She was lying to me. But about what? I went home and waited. Vanessa came home around 10:30, looking tired. "Rough day?" I asked. "Exhausting. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed." She didn't even look guilty. Either she was a great liar or she'd convinced herself whatever she was doing was okay. Over the next few weeks, I paid more attention. I noticed she was texting someone constantly, someone saved in her phone as Dana with a generic emoji. I knew all of Vanessa's friends, and there was no Dana. I noticed she'd leave the house saying she was going to Target or the grocery store and come back hours later with nothing or just a few small items. I noticed she was doing laundry more frequently, especially washing clothes that didn't seem dirty. All the classic signs were there, but I was still in denial. I didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend. I didn't want to accuse her without proof. Then last Tuesday happened. I was working from home. Vanessa came home around 6 p.m., which was early for her lately. She seemed energized, excited about something. I was in the living room on my laptop. She came in, sat down across from me, and said, "I need to talk to you about something." "Okay," I said, closing my laptop. Her tone made me nervous. "I've been seeing someone." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I've been seeing someone else," she repeated. "For about 4 months now. His name is Trevor, and he proposed to me this weekend." I just stared at her. This couldn't be real. "I said yes," she continued, holding up her left hand. There was a ring on it, a decent-sized diamond. "We're engaged." I don't know what I expected her to say next. An apology? An explanation? Something. Instead, she said, "I wanted to tell you in person because I respect you too much to just ghost you. But I'm going to need some time to move out, maybe a few weeks to find a place and get my stuff together." She said this like it was a reasonable request, like she hadn't just announced she'd been cheating on me for 4 months and was now engaged to someone else. "You're engaged," I said, slowly. "To someone else. While living in my house. I know the timing is awkward, but Trevor and I really connected. And when you know, right? I didn't plan for this to happen. It just did." "How did you meet him?" I asked, still processing. "At a networking event. He works in pharmaceutical sales. He's really successful. You'd probably like him, actually." The audacity of that statement snapped me out of my shock. "Get out," I said. "What?" She looked surprised. "Get out of my house, now." "Jason, be reasonable. I can't just leave. All my stuff is here. I need time to find a place and get my stuff together."
You should have thought about that before you cheated on me for 4 months and got engaged to someone else. Get out. I have tenant rights, she said, and her tone shifted to something harder. You can't just kick me out. I live here. You don't pay rent. You're not on the lease. You're a guest who's overstayed her welcome. She'd clearly looked this up, or Trevor had. Either way, she thought she had the upper hand. Fine, I said calmly. Let me make a phone call.
I called my lawyer. Yes, I have a lawyer on retainer because I've learned to protect myself. His name is Marcus, and he's excellent. I explained the situation briefly. Marcus asked a few questions about whether Vanessa paid rent. No. Whether she was on any kind of written agreement. No. Whether she'd contributed financially to the household. Minimally and not recently. She's not a tenant, Marcus said. She's a guest. You can ask her to leave. If she refuses, you can call the police. I thanked him and hung up. You're not a tenant, I said to Vanessa. You're a guest. You don't pay rent. We have no written agreement. You need to leave. I'm not going anywhere, she said defiantly. You can't make me. Okay, I said, and pulled out my phone again. Who are you calling? She asked. The police, I said, to have you removed from my property. Her face went pale. You wouldn't. Watch me, I said. The 911 dispatcher answered. I explained the situation. I had a guest in my home who I'd asked to leave, and she was refusing. The dispatcher said they'd send an officer. Vanessa was furious. This is insane. You're being completely unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable, I said. You cheated on me for 4 months, got engaged to another man, and expected to keep living in my house rent-free while you planned your wedding. And I'm unreasonable? I was going to move out, she said. I just needed a few weeks. You had 4 months to figure that out, I said. You made your choice. Now deal with the consequences. 2 police officers arrived about 20 minutes later. I explained the situation calmly. Vanessa tried to argue that she lived there and had rights, but when the officers asked if she paid rent or had a lease agreement, she had to admit she didn't. Ma'am, if the homeowner is asking you to leave, you need to leave. You can arrange a time to come back and get your belongings with the police escort, but you need to vacate the property now. Vanessa looked at me with pure hatred. You're really going to do this? Put me out on the street? You have a fiancé, I said. I'm sure he'll take care of you. That's what fiancés do, right? She grabbed her purse, her phone, and her keys, and stormed out. The officers waited until she drove away, then gave me a case number and left. The second they were gone, I went into action. First, I changed all the locks, every single door. I've been meaning to upgrade to smart locks anyway, so I installed those. New codes that only I knew. Second, I changed the garage door code. Third, I changed the security system code and the passwords for all the cameras. Fourth, I went through the house and collected anything that was clearly hers. Clothes, toiletries, personal items. I packed it all into boxes and bags. Fifth, I changed all my passwords for everything. Streaming services, utilities, any accounts she might have had access to. By midnight, the house was secure and her stuff was packed. I texted her, "Your belongings are packed. You can arrange a time to pick them up. You'll need to provide ID and you'll be supervised while you collect your things. You are not welcome in this house otherwise." She didn't respond. The next day, I was working from home again. Around 2 p.m., my doorbell camera alerted me that someone was at the door. It was a man I didn't recognize. Early 30s, wearing expensive business casual clothes, expensive watch. He was pressing the doorbell repeatedly. I pulled up the camera audio. "Hello, can I help you?" "Yes, I'm here to see Vanessa," he said to the camera. "She told me she lives here." "She doesn't live here anymore," I said through the camera. "Well, she needs to get her things," he said impatiently. "Can you let her in?" "No, she can arrange a supervised visit to collect her belongings." "Who are you?" "I'm Trevor," he said, "her fiancé." "Ah, the fiancé." "Nice to meet you, Trevor," I said. "Congratulations on your engagement." He looked confused. "Thanks?"
Can you just let Vanessa in? This is ridiculous. No, I said simply. Look, man, I don't know what your problem is, Trevor said, getting agitated, but Vanessa lives here and she has a right to her stuff. Vanessa was a guest here, I said. She was asked to leave, her belongings are packed, and she can collect them at a scheduled time. She said you kicked her out with nothing, that you changed the locks and won't let her get her things. She can get her things, I said patiently, with proper notice and supervision. This is her house too, Trevor argued. No, it's not, I said. It's my house, my name on the deed, my mortgage. She never paid rent. Trevor was quiet for a moment. What do you mean she never paid rent? Exactly what I said. She lived here for 8 months, rent-free. She was supposed to contribute to utilities and groceries, but stopped doing even that about 3 months ago. That's not what she told me, she said slowly. I'm sure it's not, I said. What did she tell you? That she owned this house with you, that you guys bought it together and she paid half the mortgage. I actually laughed. That's absolutely not true. I bought this house 3 years ago, a year before I even met her. It's solely in my name. She's never paid a dime toward the mortgage. Trevor looked like he was processing this information. She said she was stuck in this bad relationship and couldn't afford to leave because you controlled all the finances. Trevor, I'm going to tell you some things and you can choose whether or not to believe me, I said. Vanessa moved in 8 months ago as a temporary solution when her apartment building was renovated. She never paid rent. For the first few months, she contributed to utilities and groceries, but stopped doing even that about 3 months ago. That's not what she told me, Trevor said slowly. I'm sure it's not, I said. What did she tell you? That she owned this house with you, that you guys bought it together and she paid half the mortgage. I actually laughed. That's absolutely not true. I bought this house 3 years ago, a year before I even met her. It's solely in my name. She's never paid a dime toward the mortgage. Trevor looked like he was processing this information. She said she was stuck in this bad relationship and couldn't afford to leave because you controlled all the finances. Trevor, I'm going to tell you some things and you can choose whether or not to believe me, I said. Vanessa moved in 8 months ago as a temporary solution when her apartment building was renovated. She never paid rent. For the first few months, she contributed to utilities and groceries, but stopped doing even that about 3 months ago. That's not what she told me, Trevor said slowly. I'm sure it's not, I said. What did she tell you? That she owned this house with you, that you guys bought it together and she paid half the mortgage. I actually laughed. That's absolutely not true. I bought this house 3 years ago, a year before I even met her. It's solely in my name. She's never paid a dime toward the mortgage. Trevor was quiet for a long moment. When did you find out about me? Yesterday, I said, when she came home and announced she was engaged to you, while still living in my house. Yesterday? Trevor's voice cracked. She just told you yesterday? Yep. Walked in, told me she'd been seeing you for 4 months, showed me the ring, and asked if she could have a few weeks to move out. She told me she broke up with you 2 months ago, Trevor said quietly. She did not. She was living here, sleeping in my bed, up until yesterday. Trevor looked sick. I need to talk to her. Probably a good idea, but I'd think carefully about what you actually know about her versus what she's told you. He left without another word. About an hour later, Vanessa started calling me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. What the hell did you say to Trevor? He's freaking out, asking all these questions about where I've been living and whether I was still with you. You had no right to tell him anything. This is between you and me. She sounded panicked. I didn't call back. She texted, Trevor is threatening to call off the engagement. You've ruined everything. Are you happy now? I responded, I didn't ruin anything. You did when you lied to both of us. She called again. I declined. She sent a string of texts. You're being petty. I can't believe you did this. Trevor is furious. You told him I was living rent-free like some kind of freeloader. You made me sound terrible. He wants to see proof that you own the house. He thinks I've been using him. Answer your phone. Jason, please. I muted the conversation.
That evening, my doorbell camera caught Vanessa showing up with Trevor. They were clearly arguing. Trevor looked angry. Vanessa looked desperate. She rang the doorbell. I answered via the camera. "We're here to get my things," Vanessa said, trying to sound calm. "I'll open the garage," I said. "Everything is packed in there. You have 30 minutes. The cameras are recording." I opened the garage door remotely. They went in. I watched on the camera as Vanessa pointed to various boxes and bags. Trevor loaded them into his car without saying much. Vanessa kept trying to talk to him, and he kept ignoring her. They loaded everything up in about 25 minutes. Vanessa tried the door that led from the garage into the house. It was locked. Smart. She looked up at the camera. "Can I come in? I think I left some things in the bedroom." "Everything was packed," I said. "If you're missing something, make a list and I'll check." "I need to check myself," she insisted. "No," I said. "You're not coming in this house again." Trevor pulled her away from the door. "Let's go. You got your stuff." They left. I closed the garage door. Over the next few days, I got updates through mutual friends. Apparently, Trevor had demanded to see proof of Vanessa's claims about the house, about her finances, about everything. When she couldn't provide any of it, he realized she'd been lying. He found out she'd been telling him she was paying half the mortgage on their house, when in reality, she'd been living rent-free in my house. He found out she'd been saying she couldn't afford to leave me because I controlled the finances, when in reality, she just didn't want to pay rent anywhere. He found out she'd been claiming we'd broken up 2 months ago, when we'd actually still been together until this week. According to my friend who knew someone who knew Trevor, he called off the engagement, said he couldn't trust her after she'd lied about so many basic facts. Vanessa apparently tried to salvage the relationship, but Trevor was done. The ring went back to the jeweler. And Vanessa? She ended up moving back in with her parents because she couldn't afford first and last month's rent, plus a security deposit on her own. My friend said Vanessa had been telling everyone that I was abusive, that I had kicked her out with nowhere to go, that I'd stolen her belongings, the usual script. But too many people knew the truth. They'd seen her social media posts about her house and her home, posts she'd now deleted, but people had screenshots of. They'd heard her talk about living with me. They knew she hadn't broken up with me months ago like she told Trevor. Her lies caught up with her. As for me, I'm doing great. My house is peaceful. I'm not supporting someone who was using me. I learned an important lesson about protecting myself and not being so quick to let someone move in. A few people asked if I felt bad about how things went down, if I thought I was too harsh. The answer is no. Vanessa made calculated decisions. She decided to cheat. She decided to get engaged while still living with me. She decided to lie to Trevor about her entire living situation. She decided to treat my house like a free hotel. She didn't accidentally end up in this situation. She created it. And when it blew up in her face, that was the consequence of her own choices. I gave her a place to stay when she needed it. She repaid me by cheating, lying, and trying to use my house as her backup plan while she monkey branched to someone she thought was a better option. She bet on Trevor being okay with her lies. She lost that bet. Now she's back at her parents' house, single, with a lot of people who know exactly what kind of person she is. And I'm in my house, which is mine alone, with locks she'll never have keys to again. I'd say it worked out exactly as it should have.